Hello, Nevada County. This is David Clark Carroll with the Nevada County Tech Connection. We're a project of the Nevada County Economic Resource Council, and we like to look at how tech is being used in the community. Sometimes we talk to small business owners. Sometimes we talk to nonprofits. We've talked with a wide range of people from the hospital, from Sierra Streams. We're rejoined tonight by Sierra College professor Alex Torres. Alex joined us over the fall and really put the fear of, unupdated and unmanaged systems into all of us, talking about ransomware. And that had been making the news quite a lot. A lot of regional entities of, public, private, everything have been affected. And here we are in January. We frequently do talent development this time of year, where we talk about, how to revamp the workforce. There's a lot of people out there who are maybe not quite as happy doing what they do as they could be. And wintertime was always a time to, hole up and think, okay, how do I want to spend next winter? So brought Alex on to talk a little more in depth about the Sierra College program and really what it takes to be a true cybersecurity professional in 2022. So I know we got your whole bio last time, so I don't want to get quite as in depth, but if you could just, let the folks know out there a little bit more about how you came to be where you are.
Sure. And again, my name is Alex Torres, and I teach cybersecurity here at Sierra College. This is actually my first year full-time teaching. I've been doing the part-time thing for about 4 years now. I have about 15 to 20 years working as the lead threat and vulnerability management engineer for Hewlett Packard Enterprise. And what I pretty much did there is attack HP from the external and from the internal and send out reports to different teams so they can work on their environments. I also have my own consulting business where I work with everything from law enforcement, with the courts, with a lot of hospitals to try to get their compliance up to par. I do have my master's in information system security, bachelor's in computer science, as well as criminal justice from Rochester Institute of Technology. Got to mention my alma mater up in upstate New York, because that was many years ago. It's funny when you ask, where I came from. I started my career in IT back in high school. You're talking 30 plus years ago. When I say that, it's like, wow, 30 plus years ago. On my high school diploma, it actually says computer maintenance and repair on my actual diploma. So I've been in the business for quite a few years right now.
I mean, the whole idea of, no one really mentions computer maintenance these days. There's repair, that's a whole part of the language that's kind of, you just get a new one almost. It's more disposable. I still remember my first computer was a desktop tower, and you had to maintain those. You had to blow massive quantities of dust out of them.
And there was big business in maintaining computers, even with businesses take and buy computers. They can't just turn them over and get new ones. They try to fix what they have to make them last longer.
And there's also the security side where, you don't want to necessarily just get rid of that old internal hard drive.
Yep.
Like, I've got quite a box in my basement of completely unusable, unreadable hard drives that I just can't bring myself to get rid of because
believe it or not, I actually have several boxes of hard drives, but I've been meaning to go inside there, back up, and then take a nail through it, back up, but I just so many other projects that I have going on.
Exactly. I mean, last summer I was looking at mine and thinking, oh, I've got a little bit of free time. Maybe I'll do this. And then I realized I don't have a desktop anymore. I'd have to go out and get the whole frame and rebuild a computer just to access that data efficiently, or build an enclosure. And at that point I was like, all right, back in the box you go. All right, so let's launch into talking a little bit about Sierra College. You know, it's, I think what really took me by surprise when I was prepping for this was realizing how nationally known, ranked, and respected the program is. This is not, you know, someone going to Sierra because they couldn't get a Davis first year and they need to get their gen eds in. This is a real high level respected program. Can you talk a little bit about how Sierra came to be home to that? And yeah.
Sure. And it has come a long way, the program. It's gone through a lot of iterations over the years. When I was initially brought on a little over 4 years ago, they brought me on with the purpose of revamping a program and making it what's called DoD certified by the National Security Administration and by the Department of Defense as the National School of Excellence in Cybersecurity. That was one of the main reasons that they initially had brought me on. I took a look at the program, the curriculum, and we made just little changes from semester to semester. We couldn't just rip the tape out and do radical changes. So we did little changes until we actually got to that point where we were able to be certified. And here in California, we're actually one of only 5 community colleges that actually have that designation. And it took a while to get that designation. But they had to come on board and look at our curriculum, our program, how we taught, how our hands-on played. That it seemed to be their biggest focus, that we had hands-on, that we had a lot of hands-on labs, exercises, that it wasn't just a theoretical program. So then we got the designation about 1.5 years ago. He received the designation.
I mean, that's just awesome. So when you say hands-on, that means you've got students literally doing what you did at HP, trying to attack systems from the outside, from the inside, finding those weaknesses. What's it like to be in a lab full of a whole bunch of people trying to break their computers?
The way the curriculum is designed, we have several classes leading up to our security classes. Pretty much the student's first introduction to security. Prior to that, you're taking operating system, server operating system, some networking classes, and some programming classes, and then they get introduced to the security class. After the security class, or the one that goes in conjunction with it, is the hacking class. So in one class, we teach students how to lock down computers, how to lock down networks, how to lock down servers, applications. Whereas in the pen testing class, we show them how to break into those systems. And we try to make it as hands-on as possible, to the point that in the last week of class, we have a 7-day cyber challenge. And it's 7 days, 24 hours a day for 7 days. And what we do is I'd set up a lab environment, and the lab actually has live systems that are connected to the internet. And this is, I have to point that out because it's rare. If you were to start looking online for collegiate cyber challenges or national cyber challenges, there's a bunch of cyber challenges out there that are good and they have their niche, but most of them, when you dive into the details, they don't, their systems are not connected to the internet. And there's a whole bunch of things students can't do. They can't download scripts from the internet or policies from the internet and use those policies. So there's a whole bunch of red tape. Well, in real business, you have to do what you need to do to secure your environment. And the bad guys do not have red tape. Right? So what we do is we set up that nice virtual isolated environment. It does have internet access. Throughout the entire semester, we're training up students and showing them how to secure desktops, how to secure servers, how to secure applications, how to use policies and procedures, and go through the actual documentation and just go step by step by step by step on securing these systems. And then with a pen testing class, and it's funny because when I took and I developed the curriculum, I pretty much laid it all out. And I said, I'm going to teach this class, which is how to do this. And in the hacking class, it's just the opposite, how to circumvent those exact controls. So for example, if you come to any one of the given classes, like a security class, that one day, the topic that we'll be talking about that day and how to secure The next day, we'll have the exact opposite on the class trying to break into those exact same controls. So all of the classes are designed that way. And then when students get ready for that cyber challenge, for some of them, it is, one student actually stated it best, that these classes are a culmination of everything that they've ever learned crammed into 1 week, showing them how businesses actually function. If you go to a business, they have a cyber defense center, they're looking at logs, they're trying to stop traffic and everything like that. The security team, that's exactly what they're doing. We have them set up in an isolated environment. They use different tools and techniques to parse through all the logs. They do all the security configurations, the firewall configurations, and the pen test team has their methodology that they're using to break in. We use critical controls for cyber defense. We use the cybersecurity policy. We use National Institute of Standards. We use HIPAA compliance standards. We go by every single one of them, and we try to introduce students to a little bit of everything. So when a student finishes the program, they're well-rounded. And in talking to employers, they love the fact that the students were introduced to the policies, the procedures, the step-by-steps, the things that they have to do. And when I'm talking step-by-steps, one thing you have to understand about these step-by-steps, and just to give you an example, when we take and introduce them to Windows 10 and locking down and hardening a Windows 10 system, the policies that we use are about 1,000 pages long of steps, of configurations that they have to do to lock down Windows 7. Then we give them another one for Google Chrome, another one for Internet Explorer, and a whole other set of documents and benchmarks for Windows servers, for Linux systems, for Red Hat systems, for Ubuntu systems. So this is a lot of information that's thrown their way. And we don't expect them to be experts at the end of the program, but they have all the tools. They know they can save all the material, and they can practice with that. And I've had students working in cyber at the same time they're going through the class, and they're using those labs in their real work. And they're like, wow, this is the stuff that we're doing right now, this very second. I remember I had one student, the student was doing an internship. And when I went to the company that was doing the internship, they were using every single security tool that we were using. All the open source tools, they were using the exact same thing. So when I spoke to their security team, they said it was awesome. The person is coming in and he already has the skill set to jump in. Okay, and that's what the program is all about, to get you ready with real world skills that you can apply now.
So is that syncing up of what you were teaching with what they were using in their workplace, partly due to that DoD certification that everyone's working from a standard, or was that kind of just a happy accident in that situation?
I think it's a combination. I like working with Uptodate Systems. For me to set up a lab environment and have Windows XP and Server 2003 or outdated systems, it makes no sense unless you're just introducing students to the concept. Use Server 2019, 2022, use Windows 11 systems, use Uptodate Systems. So that way, when the pen test team is successfully able to break in to a secured Server 2019 or 2022 system, they know the value of the education that they just received, because they're not just breaking into just old, outdated systems. They're breaking into systems that other teams are locking down, are hardening. And once they go through the security class and they migrate over to the ethical hacking, they know what the students went through. They know what's involved inside those classes, which better prepares them. And then they start to think outside the box. They start to think, I remember everything I did inside that class. What was missed, or what can I do to circumvent the controls? Yeah. And we continually get feedback from students on what else we should be introducing into the classes. One thing that we're going to be introducing is cloud security, much more cloud environments, automation into the environments, especially in the security side.
Very cool. So we've talked, kind of about the end of the learning process here, where it's that last 7 days, and you can take that and go into the real world. What does it take for a student who's, let's say, watching this and thinking, this sounds like something I want to do? How do they get to there? You know, you said that there's a number of kind of more basic computer level classes. Someone wants to sign up, you know, if, let's say, start in the summer, start next fall. What's their course trajectory going to look like to get to that point?
Hey, if I can go ahead and share my screen.
Yeah.
Go ahead and show you something here.
If it doesn't. All right, cool.
And let me know if you can see the Sierra College website here.
It is looking good here. Just gonna double check it's coming through on the stream. Yep, all
Okay.
good.
Perfect. So this is the Sierra College website. I can go ahead and refresh it. This is the updated website for Sierra College. And if you were to go to academics and you explore our programs, from here you can go into the applied technology, which is where our section is at. And then from here we have our information technology here. And then once you go here, you have the information technology. It goes over a little bit about careers, and then it talks about the different credentials that you can get out of our curriculum. You can take and get an associate's. We are a 2-year accredited college. You can get your associate's as an IT technician in cybersecurity, analytics, network security, or focusing or honing in on the cybersecurity. You can get an associate's in cybersecurity. You can get a certificate of achievement in cybersecurity, or you can get a skills certificate in cybersecurity. And so we have several different paths to get the student from A through Z. The easier one of all of them would be the skills certificate. The skills certificate, you don't need all the background classes, all the, for example, all your English and all your requirements, because it's not an associate. You're not going for your associate's degree with this credential. It's a certificate, and you automatically jump into the security classes after you do a couple prerequisites. Okay, prerequisites like learning how to take and secure desktops, learning how to secure servers, learning networking, and learning a little bit of programming. And then from there, you jump into the security class. And that's the skills certificate. The more advanced one is the IT cybersecurity certificate of achievement. You notice it's more classes. So it'll take you roughly a year and a semester to complete this one. And it gives you more of a foundation, more classes for you to hone in your skills. And then finally, you get into our associate level course. That is a combination of everything. That's where you have to go through the entire gamut to get these, to go through these credentials. Now, in conjunction with these courses, whether you take the skills certificate or the certificate of achievement or the associate's degree. So for example, let me go back to the skills certificate. On the skills certificate, for example, we have this class right here, the IT 120. The IT 120 is a security class. It also prepares you for security certification. You can also go for the security certification upon completing that class. Same thing with the server class, as well as your desktop classes. You can take these classes and then you can go for different credentials, whether it's Microsoft certification or CompTIA Server Plus certification. So it's not just this, there's other things that students can do to further help their credentials. Okay, so we have several different learning paths depending on what the student is interested in taking. From here, you notice this is just another website where it goes into a little bit more information about your degrees, and it actually talks a little bit about more, dives a little bit into more details on the degree. Our department has our cybersecurity. They have our data analytics. That one's getting a lot of traction. That one has to do with understanding big data and how to parse and dive in to parse the data to get the information that you're looking for. We have our IT technician. This one's a little bit more technical. And then we have our network technician for those who are interested in network security. Earlier, I mentioned our DoD certification. This is our DoD designation that we actually received. And again, only 5 colleges in California actually have that designation.
This is awesome. So what struck me a little bit about the various certificate passes, it's not mutually exclusive. You don't have to, let's say, pick one and then you can't do the others, right? It seems like if you, let's say, start with that skills certificate, maybe you're working an IT job somewhere and you want to, move your way up the ladder. You can also, let's say, keep going, switch over to that certificate of achievement. Now, let's say you're someone like me who has a bachelor's in another field. How doable is it to come in and let's say get that AS using our previously earned credits? Is that a doable path or?
Yes, it is a doable path. And we do have students that come into our curriculum like that, where they already have, let's say, an associate's or a bachelor's. If you have your associate's or a bachelor's and you received it within the last, let's say, 10 years, because certain classes do get updated. But as long as you have that, you've already taken your English, science, history, math, you've already taken all the foundation. It's about focusing and honing in on your major field of study. So for example, someone like you, if you've taken it within the last 10 years, you would automatically jump in. And for example, let's say you wanted to get your associate degree, all your credits will be evaluated and all of the classes that you've already taken would be crossed off. And you'd probably focus in on just the higher level classes like our security, our server, and some of your other higher level classes.
Very cool. And then one of the other great things about Sierra, of course, is the potential to transfer. And if a student is coming in and they're not like me, already with existing bachelor's, this is a launch pad. You can come in, you can take your classes at Sierra. You can, let's say, start with that, certificate of achievement. You could still be working more or less full time while you're doing that. And then at the end of the day, realize, you know what? All I got to do is take some English, take some history, some of those gen eds, and you could transfer over and keep going at Davis or at Sac State.
Right. And Sierra College does have agreement with, for example, like Sac State, where they accept our credits. They're constantly evaluating our curriculum to make sure that we're meeting that standard, that the class will transfer over. So they would look at, for example, our security class, and just to make sure that we're keeping the content up to date so that that class can transfer over to that university.
I'm gonna go ahead and close out this screen share here so we can talk a little more face to face here.
Okay.
Now, so we've talked a lot about what the classes look like, what sort of paths are possible. Let's talk a little bit about what sort of students are really going to thrive in a program like this, because you could be interested in doing cybersecurity and doing data analytics, but you might not necessarily be suited for it. So what sort of background, what sort of learning styles do you find really thrive in this program?
Believe it or not, it is all over the place. I remember having someone who was a project manager came in, loved the class. I've had people that are into gaming, just love the entire curriculum and the way everything worked. When I take and I talk to students who are interested in our program, I like inquiring about their likes and their interests. And so, for example, a student comes up to me and says, well, I like playing video games. Well, what games do you play? And people who are into gaming, for example, would play a game and literally stay there for hours on end, trying to solve whatever problem is in that video game, regardless of what it is. That's the tenacity that you need for a curriculum like this. That's the tenacity that you need in order to succeed. Because, for example, within our cyber challenges, within our curriculum, there's going to be times that you're going to be almost like that video game where you're stuck in an area and you've got to work through it. So you have to have that tenacity to work through it, to be able to work through it. So as far as what type of student takes our course, those who have that interest, that passion for it. The studies will all come in, everything will start to come into place as long as you maintain that passion and say, this is what I really want to do. This interests me. And that student gives it their all. The instructors here at Sierra, we give it 110%. We tell the students every single semester that we're going to give it our all. It's like right now, as I'm talking to you, on my other screen, I actually have about 25 or 30 students talking to me on my other screen right now. We're using the Discord app, which is a gaming app, or it's an app that a lot of gamers use. And on there, I'm talking to students in my firewall class, in my ethical hacking class, in the server class, and just in all the classes, and they'll shoot me questions, they're chatting with each other, and we're on there, okay? All the time. That's that type of tenacity that we look for, or that we provide to students. So if a student comes into the class and they're willing to give it their all, and this is what they want to do, regardless on their walk of life, we'll take and work with them to try to get them through the program.
That's an interesting phrase you use there, walk of life. And because I know one of the real kind of guideposts of Sierra is not only transfers to get people up to the bachelor level, but it's career development, it's talent development. It's why we're talking to you tonight. It's recognizing that there's people that want to make a change, find a new career.
We've had people come into the program, first day of class, they're like, we're not technical, we don't have this, we don't have that, but they want to do the security. After they finish their program, we have people working in the state, we have people working for City of Sacramento, City of Roseville, even private enterprises, and we keep that communication, that line of communication open with those students when they're in the field. And we use that as a way to further enhance our curriculum. And we say to students, okay, now that you're in the field, you went through the program, you're in the field, you got the job, you're working, what can we do better? What are you doing there that we're not doing here, so that we can further enhance our curriculum? So this coming into the program, you're not just coming into a program, you're in a sense coming into a family, because I'm going to keep in touch with those students and they keep in touch with me. I have students that still contact me from 4 years ago, where they're still keeping in touch and contacting me, letting me know what's going on and the things that they're doing. And the students enjoy that. Okay? When a student has a school that's doing that for them and with them, it develops that sense of pride, not only in themselves, but in the studies that they've learned and the things that they're doing. And they take that and carry that into their job.
That's just awesome. So let's keep talking about the jobs that students get here. I know we talked about the various levels, the certificates and AS degrees. What sort of career opportunities are open to students at those different levels? Is there a real step up? Let's say if you decide to go for the associates versus the various certificates, or how does that work out in the job marketplace?
It all depends. It all depends on what the students are coming in with. So for example, someone like you, someone who, let's say you have your bachelor's degree and you're like, okay, I want to take and upgrade my skills. You would go into the skills class, and because of your background and the degree that you already have, you're probably going to get into a different job or a different position than someone starting just from scratch and just jumped into that skill certificate. So we have students that have gone on to roles from entry-level roles or jobs to jobs a little bit higher up, but it all depends on what they brought in when they came into the curriculum.
That's a really excellent point. I hadn't quite put my finger on it, but so much of what gets you a job, it's partly your resume, it's partly your background,
Yeah.
But a huge part of it is just what you bring to the table yourself,
What you're bringing,
your history.
Exactly.
Um, like you would probably have a very different take on this whole job if, let's say, you've been in academics your whole career instead of working for HP and in the private field. So awesome point there. Now, one of the things we talked about with you last time was the idea of ransomware, and I wouldn't be doing my follow-up job if I didn't ask how many students that you've taught through this program go on to face that specific type of challenge. Is it something you hear from students regularly, like, oh, glad we took this class, I had to defuse this situation? How common is it popping up in that world?
It's not that common. It does happen. I hear things more so on the education and training side, where a student would say, hey, I went to work with a company and they have us doing a lot of ransomware training, just more training and updating. Not so much. I think I had one student that said that they were attacked and they had a ransomware attack in their company, but that's one student out of 4 or 5 years. The rest more so were more so on training and education. And what's interesting about that is the information that we worked with them on just didn't drop off when school finished. When they went and got these jobs, that the ransomware, the topics were still there. They were still present. And that's probably the more important thing, that it's still being taught, which is good. And that's what you want to happen.
That's encouraging news. You left me rather worried after last time, and I think it's so easy to get obsessed or hooked on the high profile issues when there's a lot more self-inflicted wounds that can happen out there.
Yes. Yeah, sometimes you watch the news and the sky's falling, and it's almost like the sky is constantly falling. When they jump on the ransomware bandwagon, it's just constant. But when you go out to business, a lot of businesses are doing what they're supposed to do. They're following the processes. They're learning from other companies' mistakes, which is, that right there is the more interesting part, is you have companies now that are sharing information. There's different platforms for companies to either work with the FBI or work with the government and relay what happened. Why did they get attacked? How did they get attacked? What was the technical process that went through from initial finding out they had a ransomware to fixing everything? What was the entire progression of what they did? And they relay that to other companies so that other companies can look at that and say, hey, we have this one issue that we need to address in our company. We didn't fix this, we didn't fix that. Let's make sure we have our ducks in order and learn from that other company's mistake.
So that's a really cool angle to take on it. I know we talked a little bit about, you don't necessarily want to let people know you've been affected by ransomware.
Yeah.
Not necessarily a selling point for, let's say, a data company.
Yeah.
Is this sharing data, is it anonymized? Is there a way to really incentivize companies to participate in it?
It's not really anonymized. Some companies might contact, for example, FBI has information on their website on companies that were victim of ransomware. The HIPAA website also has information on companies that were victims of ransomware. For the HIPAA side, you could also face fines because you were a victim of ransomware because you didn't do something that you were supposed to do. So it's only, so they got cut in a sense twice with that HIPAA side. But some companies put it out there just to try to be open and transparent. Say, look, we're not perfect. We got hit, but we did something about it. And now we're much better for it, which we're much better protected for it. And your information and your data is much better protected.
So that's almost more of a just trying to change the corporate culture where it's, everyone at some point could be vulnerable. So it's less about, defending your reputation, more recognizing, hey, we're human.
Yeah.
We're a company in the modern world. It happened.
And it happens. Oh,
Learn from what happened to us. So,
exactly.
you know, I'm not sure if anyone out there is sitting there thinking, man, I'm glad no one heard about my ransomware attack, but maybe rethink that. Think about, hey, this is what I did to address the issue. This is why you should trust me with your data, because I did something about it, as opposed to, oh yeah, keep it quiet. We paid the guy off. If it comes again, we'll pay him again. It's like,
Makes sense.
so, you know, sounds like really the sky's the limit as far as if this is a topic that interests you as a potential student, you guys are going to make it happen. So that's just, I think, my favorite thing about Sierra College. It's never like, oh, you don't have the prerequisites. It's, oh, let's get you signed up for the prerequisites.
Yeah, we'll do what we could. I mean, our job is to help people. That's the best way to put it. You know, we work together. The instructors there are more to students like colleagues working with them. I tell the students in the beginning of the semester, we're here together, miss. I'm going to take and help and work with you. I mean, yes, we have lectures and lab assignments and everything else, but we're not throwing you to the wolves. Okay, so we're going through this step by step by step. And as I mentioned, I used the Discord app for live communication between all of our classes for all of our students, where we can share ideas and talk, and students can help work with each other and shoot me questions and use apps like that or systems like that for real-time collaboration. And using things like that helps the student feel that sense of they're working as a team on this, and they're not just working in silos or by themselves.
And that's especially important right now. You know, we talked, I think, before we went live, you know, you're still by and large teaching remotely, which, you know, at this point, people have it. It's no longer novel. It's no longer new. It just is. How, and you just started the semester last week, correct? You're
Correct. Yep.
5 full days in, or was last week a partial week?
No, 5 full days. So I have the 2 classes. You know, this online, the entire move to online, and Sierra does have classes that are on campus. They do have a hybrid model. They have this asynchronous courses where, for example, I would record a session, put it out on our Canvas, and students are able to view it whenever they want. And then we're going to be introducing synchronous classes where we'll be in a live session similar to this with all the students, and they'll be able to communicate. And I've had those with students before. And one thing that Sierra has noticed is that students like choice. They like to have that option where if they want to go into campus, they want to be able to go into campus and have a class, the traditional brick and mortar class on campus, but they also want the flexibility to say, I want to be able to take something online also. So Sierra's looking at that and increasing our classes so students can take either or.
That's a really cool approach to hear, particularly, you know, right now where things are more open than they were last winter, right? There's a lot more things that are happening in person, yet a lot of people calling out sick, they test positive.
Yeah.
And, you know, just because they have to be isolated doesn't mean they don't have the brain power to, let's say, Zoom into a class.
Yeah.
So I think it's really awesome that you're, you know, meeting them where they are and making it so they don't have to take that week off of class. They can keep their nose to the grindstone, which is awesome.
Yes, it is.
So looking ahead for this semester, all your classes are going to be, are you going to be having some more synchronous, or is it all synchronous, asynchronous looking forward to the spring semester?
For this semester, all the classes are already locked into asynchronous because that's how it was set up inside the curriculum. So it's going to stay that way for this semester. Looking at fall, we may look at having some courses synchronous, some asynchronous, some on campus. So we're looking at the entire curriculum, and it all depends on what's going on. If COVID continues the way it continues and it blends into next all the way up to fall, then look at to have more classes like this, synchronous and asynchronous.
Well, what's so cool, like you've got the app that you're communicating with them, so it feels like you're much more prepared and able to offer a full class experience this way, as opposed to that first spring semester, 2 years ago, where it's like, well, everything's online. We didn't plan it, but everything's online.
Luckily, on my curriculum, when I had designed the curriculum, I designed it for it to be able to be taught online. So I was already ready for that switch. There were a lot of instructors that had to go through the school of hard knocks and work their way through it. We've come a long way. Classes are working much, much better. Students are having a better experience right now. I mean, granted, it's a different experience being on campus. And Sierra College it is a nice sized campus, and students have that better experience if we're there. For now, we're doing what we need to do to be there for the students.
Well, and for all the students up in Nevada County, I'm sure a lot of them really appreciate being able to do it asynchronously and online, because we're not that far up the hill, but we are up the hill.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember a couple of years ago, I was taking classes at Davis, and I'd have to wake up at about 6 a.m. to shovel out a foot of snow, to put chains on my truck, to drive down the unplowed road to get to town, Nevada City, where I'd take off the chains, buy a cup of coffee, and then drive an hour and a half down to Davis. So,
fun times.
It might have been nice on some of those days to just casually zoom into a lecture. Anyway, I think I'm kind of running out of prepared questions I had here. We've talked a lot about what sort of student you need to be and what you would need to do to thrive in the program. Talked about career paths, various certificate options, the fact that you came in and helped overhaul this to DoD standards, which is just awesome.
Yeah.
You have any other kind of closing thoughts on, if someone's watching this thinking about enrolling in this program, or, thinking about maybe pressuring their kid, hey, you've been sitting around the house for the last year, go down to Sierra.
I say if they're thinking about it, the way you chop down a tree is with that first swing. Just one class, just start off with one class, just one at a time, to get your feet wet, to understand the environment, how everything works, and then continue from there. But just start with that baby step, just one step, one class. The registration, you can pretty much register and have everything ready before the semester starts. But just one thing that's important to note, and something that I brought up earlier, many of the classes, and it's not only Sierra College, it's pretty much across the country, where enrollments are down in a lot of colleges and universities. Well, within the IT industry, enrollment is actually up. In Sierra is no exception. Our IT environment, our enrollments are up. I still have people trying to enroll in our class that we're already into the second week, and people are still wanting to enroll inside the class, which is a good indication of the field.
So if you're thinking about a class, sign up for it now.
Sign up
the message there. Well, this has just been awesome, Alex. Really appreciate you joining me again. This was more fun. Last time you really, I left the interview all nervous and updated all my systems, and
Okay.
I'm not going to go straight to preferences and check for software update tonight.
Well,
all right.
It was a good talk. I enjoyed the talk. Anytime, give us a ring. We'll be more than happy to have these conversations.
Appreciate it, Alex. Again, this was Professor Alex Torres of Sierra College. I'm David Clark Carroll. Thanks so much for tuning in.